Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality in a way that is extremely empowering. Speaking of exploring powerful perspectives, I would like to gift my book, The Golden Key, Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance to you at goldenkey.gift, where you can get the audio or ebook as my gift to you by using the code POSITIVEHEAD at checkout. All right, all you positive heads, welcome, welcome. Here we grow again. It is a magical Monday here in the studio as I record, and I'm going to read a little bit to you today. I'm going to read again from Destiny of Souls by Michael Newton. And for those of you who have never caught any of my episodes where I feel inspired to get a little insight into the other side, well, that's what this book is all about. It's he has a couple books, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls, this one. New case studies of life between lives. So he is a doctor, PhD, who went, got into hypnotherapy, master hypnotherapist for more than 40 years. He would take people into, trance state and hypnotize them, and then step them through past lives, and more so than focusing on the past life itself. It's like after they passed from that life, then seeing, okay, now what happens? Where are you? And what he found, and he took a very scientific approach of just documenting people's accounts of being on the other side, and life between lives, and who are they? What are they doing there? What is the bigger narrative of which physical lifetimes is, encapsulated within this larger story of your soul? And it's pretty cool because he found all these sort of overlaps in what people, how they would return to their soul group, and how we kind of play the game of human life to level up on that side. And it's just, it's a fascinating work, and works, these two books. And so, yeah, I'm going to just read from, for a little bit here and explore. I'm at the chapter where I left off last time, which was maybe a month or so ago. I'm at a new chapter called Earthly Spirit. So I suppose it's going to explore, it looks like you've got some subtitles, astral planes, and let's see, ghosts, nature spirits, that kind of thing. So we'll see what he was able to uncover in his exploration about these earthly spirits. And yeah, I'll start reading. At first, it looks like it's just him talking, and then at some point we'll get to where it's someone under hypnosis that he's going back and forth asking questions. And I'll do my best to inflect my voice so you can tell, when he's asking a question and they're answering and that kind of thing. But starting out, it's him talking about the astral planes. When my hypnosis subjects describe their ascent into the spirit world as rising through misty layers of translucent light, I am reminded of the astral planes we read about in Eastern texts. I must confess that I am not at all attracted to the rigid stair-step quality of exactly 7 planes of existence from low to high, which come from Eastern spiritual philosophy. This is due to the fact that my clients see no evidence of all these planes. It is a human failing to label concepts as a means of codification. In my descriptions about the spirit world, I am as guilty of this practice as everyone else. Perhaps it is best that we simply take those precepts which make spiritual sense to us and reject the rest, regardless of the age of certain ideas or who tells us they are true. The reason for my objections to a rigid formula of specific planes of existence from Earth to a Godhead is that these states are unnecessary inhibitors. All my research with subjects in a higher state of consciousness indicates to me that upon death, we go directly from one astral plane around Earth through the gateway into the spirit world. It does not matter if my subject is a young soul or a highly advanced older soul. Right after death, they all tell me their soul passes through a dense atmosphere of light around the astral plane of Earth. This light has patches of darkish gray, but no impenetrable black zones. Many describe a tunnel effect. All souls from Earth then quickly move into the bright light of the spirit world. This is a single ethereal space without zones or barriers around it. In the spirit world itself, all the so-called spaces or places available to the reincarnating souls are congruent. For instance, the Akashic Records traditions of Eastern thought don't appear to my subjects as being on some fourth causal plane separate from other functional areas. My subjects call these records life books, which are stored in symbolic libraries that are seen adjacent to other spiritual places. I acknowledge there is much beyond the spiritual experience of the reincarnating soul and therefore out of my range of inquiry. Perhaps the whole idea of cosmic planes is basically an attempt to conceptualize stages of ethereal awareness as opposed to movement prevented by barriers. Historically, specific demarcations of planes that enclose the quote-unquote underworld designed for certain unworthy souls have been more prevalent in human thinking. I will discuss this further in Chapter 6. When my subjects tell of traveling interdimensionally, I suppose one could interpret this as soul movement through planes. The term plane is not used nearly as much as the words levels, edges, borders, and divisions, except when a client refers to Earth. People in hypnosis report that within the astral plane surrounding Earth, alternate or coexistent realities are part of our physical world. Apparently, within these realities, non-material beings can be seen by some people in our physical reality. I have been told of multitudes of interdimensional spheres that are used by souls for training and recreation from the spirit world. Spiritual boundaries can be as small as the glass-like divisions between cluster groups, or as large as the zones between universes. I am told all spatial zones have vibrational properties that allow for soul passage only when their energy waves are attuned to the proper frequency. The more developed souls explain that absolute time as we know it does not seem to exist in these areas. Does the physical world of Earth have similar characteristics that are unseen by most of us? I had a thoughtful client who wrote me the following after his session. Working with you has made me realize that our reality is like a movie projector, showing us images on a three-dimensional screen of sky, mountains, and seas. If a second projector, with its own imprint of alternating light, frequencies, and space-time sequences, was synchronized with the first, both realities could exist simultaneously with material and non-material entities in the same zone. If what people in a trance state tell me about this system has validity, etheric beings would be capable of existing in different realities within the same astral plane surrounding Earth, indeed on Earth itself. The vibrational energy forces around Earth are in constant flux. It seems to me that if these magnetic fields change density, they would produce cyclic variations over centuries of human time. Therefore, we may be more or less receptive to viewing spirits on Earth in any given century. Perhaps the ancients really could see more than we do in the modern world. Cool. All right, next, nature spirits. On a national TV show, a woman reported that she had seen elves in her vineyard. She said that in the beginning, she only heard them and was a little concerned about her sanity. In time, she was able to talk to them, and a few became visible to her. She described them as being about 2 feet high with pointed ears and wearing baggy pants. Of course, many people in her area thought she was crazy when the news got out. The advice she received from these beings about what to use in her soil to increase the quantity and quality of grape production over that of the neighboring farms soon caused many of them to take her more seriously. When the story was released, this woman was invited to have her brainwaves tested. When her senses were stimulated, it was found that portions of her brain were capable of a much higher energy output than normal. I had a client who also claimed to have such abilities. She was an old soul and in a deep trance state said, "Fairy folk were here long before the rise of our civilizations and have never left. Most of us do not see them today, as in ancient times, because they are so old their density has become very light, while our earth bodies still have heavy energy." I questioned her further and she added, "While a rock has a 1D density, a tree would be a 2D, and our bodies are at the 3D level. Thus, the beings of nature would be invisible with a transparency registering between 4D and 6D. When I think of the woman who saw elves in her vineyard, I see a picture in my mind. If we could look at Earth with X-ray vision, it might resemble a series of overlaid clear plastic topographical sheets. These vibrational energy layers vary in density and denote alternate realities to me. Certain gifted people might be able to see within these layers, but most of us are unable to do so. It is also my belief that much of our folklore comes from the memories souls have of their experiences on other physical and mental worlds. What they have to say about these experiences while under hypnosis conforms in some respects to the myths and legends of Earth. These soul associations include spirits in trees and plants, as well as connections to the elements of air, water, and fire. Folklore and soul memory will be explored further in later chapters. This makes me think of my ex-partner years ago was at a transformational festival and went to a workshop where the idea was to connect with the soul of a tree. And so they all did this kind of guided meditation experience. And she felt like she had connected and actually got a name, like the soul of the tree, relayed a name to her. And she was pretty shocked when, people started to recount their experiences, and another woman at the event recounted that she connected with the soul of the tree and it said the same name. So it was definitely a bit of evidence that to my partner that she wasn't just imagining it and making it up. So what a concept, huh? Ghosts is the next section here. Many researchers into the paranormal have written about ghosts. I do not consider myself proficient in this field, although I have had some exposure with souls as ghosts. At my lectures, I am often asked how benevolent spirit guides can allow these beings to wander around lost, unhappy, and alone. My contribution to the study of ghosts will be to review what I feel are some misconceptions and to explain in this phenomenon from the perspective of the ghost rather than from those who see them on Earth. When I began to devote my hypnotherapy practice exclusively to the study of life between lives, it took years before a client came to me who had been a ghost for an appreciable amount of time after a former life. I don't consider short-timers ghosts in the traditional sense. For instance, I had a client who died young in a schoolhouse fire while saving the children. The teacher stayed around town for some months afterward, just checking on the kids and other people who were grieving at her untimely death. When I asked what prompted her to finally leave, she said, "Oh, eventually I got bored." I have come to the conclusion that only a small fraction of souls have ever been ghosts, beyond the normal amount of time it takes for the new discarnate to adjust before leaving Earth. I don't believe we are being haunted by that many ghosts around the world. The cases which follow will demonstrate that our guides do not compel or coerce us to move into the spirit world if our unfinished business is so overpowering that we do not want to leave Earth's astral plane. I find this is especially true if the soul has a permissive guide. Some guides have much more of a hands-off approach. Then, too, our guides typically don't make personal appearances next to us at the moment of death at ground zero. For most souls, the pulling sensation right after death is gentle and only grows more deliberate as we leave Earth's astral plane. There is no question that higher beings are instantly aware of our death, yet the wishes of the deceased are respected. Keep in mind that time means nothing in the spirit world. Discarnates don't have a linear clock in their head, so staying behind for days, months, or years doesn't have the same relevance as with incarnates. A ghost who has haunted an English castle for 400 years and finally returns to the spirit world may feel in spirit time this amounted to 40 days or even 40 hours. Some people have the misconception that ghosts don't know they are dead or how to escape their situation. Yes, in a sense, they are trapped, but this is a condition of mental obstruction rather than any material hindrance. Souls are not lost in some confined astral plane that they do not know they have made a transition out of life on Earth. The ghost confusion lies in the obsessive attachment they have to places, people, and events where they can't let go. These actions of self-displacement are voluntary by special guides called Redeemer Masters, constantly watch for signs that the known disturbed spirits are ready to exit. We have the right to self-determination, even with our death experience. Spiritual guides will honor poor decision-making. From what I have been able to observe, ghosts are less mature spirits who have trouble freeing themselves from earthly contaminations. This is particularly true if their stay in limbo is for prolonged periods in Earth years. The reason for staying behind are varied. Perhaps the life ended in an unexpected manner, which caused a deviation from a major path. These souls may feel their free will has been thwarted in some way. Quite often there was a terrible trauma connected to the ghost's death. Perhaps they want to try and protect a person they care about from danger. In 1994, a young woman driving at night on a road not far from my house in the Sierra Nevada mountains tumbled down a steep embankment and was killed. No one had seen the accident or noticed the wreck 50 feet down the hill, where for 5 days her 3-year-old son clung to his life. This accident attracted national attention when it was reported that a passing motorist saw a ghostly apparition of a nude young woman lying on the highway directly above the wreckage. This was a dramatic way for this ghost to be noticed, and it worked because her child was found just in time to save his life. I find the underlying cause behind disturbed spirits to be a sudden change in their planned karmic direction, and they perceive to be not only unexpected but unjust. The most common cases of ghosts appear to involve souls who were murdered or wronged by another person in life. My next case begins as a typical ghost story, but then reveals how these matters are resolved constructively for the ghost. The abandoned soul. Belinda came to see me because of an overwhelming sense of sadness she was unable to comprehend based upon her current life experience. During my intake interview, I learned she was 47 and had never been married. She moved to California from the East Coast after a stormy breakup with a man called Stuart some 20 years before. Belinda cared for Stuart, but she had broken off their engagement after making a decision to change her life and come west to pursue a new career. She asked Stuart to come with her, but he did not want to leave his job and his family. Stuart pleaded with Belinda to marry him and stay in the area where they had both grown up, but she refused. Belinda told me that Stuart was devastated by her leaving him, but he wouldn't follow her. Eventually, Stuart married someone else. Some years later, Belinda said she met Bert, and they had an intensely passionate relationship for a while, but eventually he left her for another woman. I wondered if this was the source of Belinda's unexplained sadness, but she told me no. She had been hurt, but that it was a good thing she had married Bert. Belinda now realized that besides his being an unfaithful lover, she and Bert were temperamentally unsuited. Belinda added that, for some reason, long before her relationships with men began, she had these strange feelings of abandonment and loss. Case 14. It is my custom to move subjects into their most immediate past life before we enter the spirit world. The hypnosis technique allows for a more natural mental passage following a death scene. I asked Belinda to pick a critical scene to open our discussion about her former life. She chose one of great mental anguish. She said she was a young woman by the name of Elizabeth living on a large farm near Bath, England, in the year 1897. Elizabeth was on her knees holding the coattails of her husband, Stanley, who was dragging her through the front doorway of their manor house. After 5 years of marriage, Stanley was leaving her. Now we're going to be back and forth with the doctor talking to her under hypnosis. What is Stanley saying to you at this moment? He says, I'm sorry about this, but I need to get away from this farm and go out to see the rest of the world. How do you respond, Elizabeth? I am imploring, begging Stanley not to leave because I love him so much and that I will try harder to make him happy here. My arms are aching from holding his coat and being dragged down the hall to the front steps. What does your husband say? Still crying, she's still crying. Stanley says, it's not you, really. I'm just sick of this place. I'll be back. Do you think he means it? Oh, I know a part of him loves me in some way, but his need to escape this life and all he has known since he was a boy is too overpowering. After the statement, my subject's body begins to shake uncontrollably. After soothing her a bit, tell me what is happening now, Elizabeth. It's about over. I can't hold him any longer. My arms are not strong enough. They hurt. She begins to rub her arms. I fall down the rest of the steps in front of the servants. I don't care. Stanley gets on his horse and rides away while I watch helplessly. Do you ever see him again? No, I only know he went to Africa. How do you maintain yourself, Elizabeth? He left me the estate, but I did not manage it well. I let most of the staff and workers go. In time, we have almost no livestock and I am barely subsiding, but I cannot leave the farm. I must wait for him should he finally decide to come back to me. Elizabeth, I now want you to go to the last day of your life. Give me the year and the circumstances leading up to this day. It is 1919. The subject is 52, and I am dying of influenza. I haven't put up much resistance in the last few weeks because I have just been existing. My loneliness and sorrow, the struggle to keep the farm going, my heart is broken. I now take Elizabeth through her death scene and attempt to bring her into the light. It is no use because she remains grounded to the farm. I soon discover this rather young soul is about to become a ghost. Why are you resisting moving up away from Earth's astral plane? I won't go. I can't leave yet. Why not? I must wait longer at the farm for Stanley. But you have waited for 22 years already and it has not returned. Yes, I know. Still, I just can't bring myself to go. What do you do now? I hover as a spirit. I talk to Elizabeth about her ghostly appearance and behavior around the farm. She does not zero in on Stanley's energy vibrations to locate him anywhere in the world as an experienced soul would do. Further questioning indicates that Elizabeth has the idea that if she can scare away any potential buyers, the estate might remain in the family. Indeed, the property does sit idle with no new occupants because everyone in the districts knows it's haunted. Elizabeth tells me she flies around the manor house crying over her abandonment. How long do you wait for Stanley in Earth years? 4 years. Does this seem like a long time for you? What do you do? It is nothing. A few weeks. I cry and moan over my sadness. I can't help it. I know this scares people, especially when I knock things over. Why do you want to scare people who have done you no harm? To express my displeasure at what was done to me. Please explain to me how all this comes to an end. I am called. Oh, you have asked for a release from this sad situation? Long pause. Well, not actually. Sort of. But he knows I am about ready. He comes and says to me, "Don't you think this is enough?" Who says this to you? And what happens? The Redeemer of Lost Souls calls me. The Redeemer of Lost Souls calls to me, and I move further away from Earth with him, and we talk while waiting. Just a minute. Is this your spirit guide? She smiles for the first time. No, we are waiting for my guide. This spirit is Donnie. He rescues souls like me. That's his job. What does Donnie look like, and what does he say to you? Laughs. He looks like a little gnome, with a wrinkled face and a top hat, which is all beat up. His whiskers shake when he talks to me. He tells me if I want to stay longer, I can, but wouldn't it be more fun to go home and see Stanley there? He is very comical and makes me laugh, but he's so gentle and wise. He takes me by the hand, and we move to a beautiful place to talk more. Tell me about this place and what happens to you next. Well, this is a place for grieving souls like me, and it looks like a beautiful meadow with flowers. Donnie tells me to be joyful, and he infuses my energy with love and happiness and purifies my mind. He lets me play like a child again among the flowers and tells me to chase the butterflies while he rests in the sun. It sounds wonderful. How long does all this go on? Rather put off by my question, for as long as I want. During this time, does Donnie talk to you about Stanley and your behavior as a ghost? Reacts with distaste. He absolutely does not do that. The Redeemer is not Titian. Subject's guide. That's the subject's guide. Those questions will come later. This is my time to rest. Donnie's old face is so full of kindness and love. He never scolds. He just encourages me to play. His job is to bring my soul back to health by helping me cleanse my mind. After Elizabeth's energy is rejuvenated, Donnie escorts her to Titian and kisses her goodbye. Then the preliminary evaluation begins as with a normal orientation for someone returning to the spirit world. I was able to access this conference with Elizabeth/Belinda, and it was instructive. In the beginning, she stated that her life as an abandoned wife was wasted. Certainly, Elizabeth pined away much of her life in suffering without making adjustments or accepting change. Under Titian's guidance, she saw that this lesson was not wasted. Belinda, too, is a very independent and productive woman who has weathered many emotional storms. By now, I am sure the reader has figured out that Stanley is Stuart today. When I relate this part of the story to people, some say to me, "Oh, good, she was able to turn the tables on that bastard with the same treatment to get revenge for what he did to her." This thinking shows how we misunderstand karmic lessons. The souls of Elizabeth and Stanley volunteered to assume their roles today as Belinda and Stuart. Stuart needed to feel the emotional pain of what he had wrought on Elizabeth. As Stanley, he had made a commitment of marriage in a culture and time when women were quite dependent upon their husbands. Because his action to leave her was swift and uncompromising, it was particularly brutal. This does not excuse Elizabeth, who took no responsibility for making changes in her life. Her suffering and non-acceptance of the situation was so extreme she ultimately became a ghost. By assuming Stanley's role in her current life, the soul of Belinda had to learn what motivated Stanley's feelings of entrapment in an undesirable location. Belinda was not Stuart's wife when she left the East Coast, so the commitment was not quite the same as Stuart had with her in their former life when he was Stanley. Yet in this life, they were lovers again, and Stuart felt forsaken by Belinda's desire to leave their town, friends, and family to seek adventure and opportunity elsewhere. Because she had the courage to do this alone, Belinda's soul has now acquired the insight that Stanley did not leave her out of a malicious desire to inflict emotional pain. Stanley wanted freedom, and so did Belinda. Belinda has carried the mental imprint of this past life into her life today. From a karmic standpoint, Belinda has a dose of residual sorrow as Elizabeth, which she was unable to comprehend until our session. Belinda told me she still thinks about Stuart, and he probably cannot forget her since she was his first love. They are soulmates in the same group, and I think it is likely the two of them will assume a new role together in their next life, balancing what they have learned in the last two lives. For those of you who are curious why Belinda had to endure the brief, unrequited love affair with Bert, this was a test. Bert is another member of the same soul group, and he volunteered to trigger Belinda's soul memories of being Elizabeth to see if she had learned to stand up to the emotional pain of a broken heart. Bert's actions also served as a wake-up call for Belinda to realize in her current life how Stuart felt when she left him. The blade of karma cuts both ways. Very cool. Very insightful. Hope you guys enjoyed that. It definitely gives you some perspective, right? How, well, our souls want to see it from all perspectives to get the holistic view. The river of life rolls on and on and on, and that's the name of the song I'm going to leave you with. It's by Entheo, Entheo. And yeah, like I said, river of life. Till next time, journey well. Love you so, so much. Also, before we cue up today's song, as a quick reminder, don't forget to download the Golden Key audio or ebook as my free gift to you at goldenkey.gift using the Golden Key code POSITIVEHEAD. And please, if you enjoy my gift, leave a positive review on Amazon so others can unlock their lives with the help of the Golden Key as well.